What's up, brother? I'm ready for you if you're ready. I was having a bit of issues though, but I think I finally figured it out. That should be good. I'm gonna bring you in right now, brother. 1 second. Okay. That should be good. All right. Here we go.
What's up,
Mr.
homie?
How are you, my brother?
Excellent, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Hey, man, I apologize for that, man. Instagram must have updated the new features on live, so it's always moving around, so I couldn't figure out where to access it.
It's all good, bro.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, man, I appreciate you for your time. I know you have a lot of things going on. You're a busy man, and also you're a family man. So, I would like to do nothing more than just enjoy this hour, or hopefully less, in terms of conversation and chat with you. It's going to be a good one, and the fact that you didn't hit me up and ask me for any questions prior shows me your level of comfort, and you know that we're going to bring the heat. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I already know.
Absolutely. All right, brother, man. So I'm ready to get into it if you are.
Absolutely. Let's get it.
All right, cool. Excellent. Let's see here. Make sure I got my questions ready. All right, good. Yo, what's going on? It's the man, Kevin McLeod, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with another edition of the Wise Guys podcast. Another special one, with this being the final season of the Wise Guys podcast, as we're doing IG lives and we're converting them to audio for the special format this season. So again, I am your host, Kevin McLeod. Glad to have you all back. And today we continue this season 4, and the videos, and as well as the audio format that we're having in terms of dialogue and panel-like discussions, in terms of the season and its theme called "For the Culture." All right, so I kind of want to get right into it, Wise Community. Today we're bringing back on a very special guest. My brother here has been rocking out with me and my brother Mark. For the first 3 seasons of the Wise Guys podcast. You caught him on season 1. All right, when we were talking about sports and athletes in season 2, when we were talking about mental health and the POC community, right? So for this episode, we're actually going to take it back a little bit to what we talked about the first time around, which is sports, athletics, and as well as being a student and being within the game of life and trying to navigate through that as a youth. All right, so without further ado, please, Wise Community, welcome back on my good friend, my dear brother, John McLeod. Mr. John McLeod, how you doing, bro? I'm so happy to have you on the platform again, and just so happy to have you here.
Appreciate you, man. It's an honor and a privilege every time we link up to have a conversation with you, man. It's always an honor and a privilege, man. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, most certainly. Before we dive in, though, I didn't get a chance to ask you this before we started. How's the family? How's the kids? How's your godson? How's everybody doing?
Everything is healthy, man, and I thank God for it. Everybody is pushing along, getting older, getting stronger and wiser, which is all that we can ask God for. It's an absolute blessing that I never ever take for granted. Sometimes you forget to acknowledge it, or you forget to to give it some attention. But yeah, but never for too long. Life should never get you that busy that you forget to you know, look at the little things, the things that are important, and family is one of them. So appreciate you asking, man.
Of course, man. You're my guy. You know what I'm saying? You're my people's. So again, so happy to have you here today. John, if it's cool with you, I kind of want to dive right into it. We got like 3 questions, and I just kind
Let's
of want to
get
get
it.
the because I know you got some stuff to talk about, and I know you're gonna talk your talk. All right. So with that being said, brother, again, so this week's episode, Wise Community, this week's special episode for again this very special season, this being the final season of the Wise Guys. All right, it's called The League, the Lottery, or Bust. All right. So again, it's called The League, the Lottery, or Bust. All right. So my brother, John McLeod, being that I'm now beginning to embark upon this new chapter and this new journey, of my life at Temple University. I think we've talked about this before. One specific thing that has really moved me, and which I plan to make the focal point of my research while I'm down here in Philly for the next couple of years, is sports, politics, and culture within sports, right? And how sports and politics is interwoven, right? Or how it intersects with youth as they age and grow to become young men who look to a life of sports as a way out within the Black community, right? And, obviously I talked to you before about $40 million slaves and how important and how paramount that book was to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as just learning about it and, just your mentor, Mr. William Roden. So I wanted to ask this first question to you, and I wanted to see how you were going to tackle this, okay? And then we can just start from there. The first question, my brother, is within the Black community, are we unfairly, all right, check this out, within the Black community, are we unfairly projecting sports onto our children? Is this focus hindering the growth as well as overall potential capabilities of our youth? So I'll ask the question again to let it marinate, all right? Within the Black community, are we unfairly projecting sports onto our children? Is this focus hindering the growth as well as overall potential capabilities of our youth? What do you think, John?
Are we unfairly projecting sports onto our youth? I'll go there first. Um, I think the evolution of opportunity in sports is something that has garnered a lot of attention over the years. Um, Sports is now seen as a possible career. Uh, the thing that's interesting with that is there are obviously some parents who definitely do that, who say that their child is pretty good at a sport and then push them to be there, or the parent that is overbearing with with a dream that it's a possibility, the potential of a dream, and because they didn't make it, they push their kids. There is definitely that. But do I think that we do this unfairly? I think what I've seen is uh, I've seen children gravitate towards their sport, and then their sport opens up doors for them. Now,
Mhm.
there in that though, it is the notion that a sport, let's for example, one of the most iconic sports, basketball, is seen as a way out for children in the Black community. So now, when let's dive into that. It's the fact that it's a way out, and I think it has been sensationalized a lot. But we need to educate our kids that bouncing or throwing or hitting a ball isn't the only way out. And I
Mhm.
think when you're in, if it's not the Black community or other POC communities, that there is a lack of understanding of possibilities. Like, for example, and I think that is largely due in fact to the schooling system, the way the schooling system is set up. Um,
Right.
Sports programs are glorified, are funded to the max, and it's it's important. However, even if we take away if we go away from sports for a second, because there's always been sports in school, and we go into the curriculum and education that kids are getting, I learned way more. I'm gonna say this: I
Mhm.
learned way more when I left school than I ever did in school. You know what school
Right.
taught me? School taught
Well.
me how to deal with people. School taught me how to manage personalities.
Mhm.
School didn't teach me how to do what I do at my job now. School didn't teach me that. And one of the things that we lack in community now is a legit understanding of career trajectory,
Right.
especially in the Black community.
Mhm.
And when I say legit understanding, as in, okay, here are the skills. Here's what you can do with yourself. You can be a lawyer. You can be a doctor. Yeah, that's cool. You can be an athlete. That's also cool. But what about being a real estate agent? What about being an
Mm.
investor? What about being a business owner? What about being an attorney, a tax attorney? What about what? There's so many different levels of things. I didn't learn about real estate until I left college.
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't learn that 85 like I think it's 75 to 85% of millionaires in America are because of real estate. I didn't understand own what ownership looked like, intellectual property. I didn't understand how to take an idea that I had, own the idea legally, and then also make a living, and then reproduce that idea that I had, and possibly, make a living or get some return for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? There's other things that are glorified over that.
Mm.
But the reality is what? When you get to a certain point and you get out of college, you're going to choose a profession that is closer to the things I just named than being an athlete. But why does it happen that way? It happens that way because kids start off playing sports or in a specific area, and they're like, this is what I want to do. When we were kids, everybody
Mm-hmm.
thought they was going to the league when we were kids.
Facts.
So we all thought we were going to the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when it didn't happen and we didn't have a plan B, or, some people went further than others. So we got the understanding early, like, okay, maybe it's not going to work out. I better figure something else out. But for those kids that went further, I played in high school, then they got enough, somebody saw them in college, they might have played D3, they might have played something else. And then they realized in college, like, okay, I'm not going to the league.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? Then it's like, well, all I know is basketball. So I guess I'm going to be a basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
Or all I know is fitness. I'm going to be a personal trainer. Or something in that realm.
Right.
When the possibilities are way wider than everybody understands.
Mm-hmm.
And like, to put it together, like, we don't take advantage of it, but we don't do anything to reverse the conversation either.
Right.
So that's the issue I have. It's either, hey, play ball, or if you don't play ball, then don't play ball.
Yeah.
Not, hey, you can play ball, but there's also this. You can
Right.
actually make athletic money doing this.
Right. Right.
Like wait,
Absolutely.
I could make money just like, maybe not James Harden money right out the gate,
Right.
but you work over time, and you got money that's going to last you way longer without that much tax on your body. You talk about real estate, you talking about owning intellectual property, you talking about licensing things, you talking about licensing. I speak to the youth all the time, and one of the things I teach them is, I ask them a question, what are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I'm good at basketball. I'm good. And one kid said, I'm good at drawing stuff. I'm really good at that. I said, how much money do you think somebody that can draw can make? And one of the kids was like, I don't know, like a couple $100. And I was like, what if I told you to add 3 zeros to that? They're like, he's talking about like $100,000. And I was like, yeah, what if I told you that? But what would you be drawing? I said, what if I told you somebody would pay you $10,000 to draw a logo that's this big?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, that's it? Now their possibilities are peaked.
Right.
Somebody just blessed them, put them on game. Like, you actually don't have to, be good at dribbling the ball. Everybody in
Right.
New York was dribbling the rock.
Everybody.
so, it's like, but why we were doing it? Because we watched NBA, we watched our favorite players, and we're like, man, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But when are we going to educate them on the other possibilities on a regular
Absolutely.
basis? Not on a
Right.
rare cases, not that uncle that says, look, forget that ball. Let me show you something.
Right.
Not just Uncle Rich that just told you, like, yo, this is how it is.
Right.
Or your pops or your mom. Like, when do we make that a reality, and we make that a stereotype? Educating
Very
the
true.
people, our families, and the people of color of how to spit game to our kids.
No,
When
very true.
basketball is not the only thing to do. When do we
You
start
know,
doing that? Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I'll never forget, and again, thank you for it. I'll never forget the day, for career day when you came up to my school up in Hartford, 3 years ago, and, you gave a presentation,
to my kids. And like you told me before, you said it on the podcast the first time around, you stopped midway through and like, all right, you know what, let me just be real with y'all. Like, and you were just talking about the process of like athletes such as, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant and people like that. Like, how hard do you think he works? What if I told you he got up in the morning to train around 4 or 5 a.m., then he went back at it again at 12, then he went back at it again at 6 and then 9. How would you feel about that? What amount of time you think goes into that? And you're like, dang, like I never really thought about it that way. I just thought about, just playing and, running up and down the court, with my friends or whatever, whatnot, and calling it a day. And then you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But what if I told you this is the amount of work that goes into the regimen to being not only a successful athlete, but a prominent and as well as outstanding overall one who is not just their names are in the bright lights, but they're also, contributing to the franchise, in terms of championships and high caliber level of play. And I remember you saying on the podcast, like that kind of just blew the mind of the kids. Like they didn't even think that far. They didn't even really think that far to know the kind of work that goes into it. And even now I find myself at the age of 30 now reflecting and looking back and sometimes just finding myself laughing like, dang, man, I never would have been able to play basketball at that level because one, my parents weren't putting money behind it for me. Two, I wasn't playing AAU. Three, I didn't have a personal trainer or a coach. I didn't have any of those resources, neither was I given any of the resources or the tools. Neither would I at age 12, 13, when I was watching Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, would have had the drive to go out there to actually execute any of those things to prepare myself. So I
Big
find that very
facts.
interesting, man. Seriously.
No, like real talk. That you spit nothing but facts because you realize the kids that took it super serious, they they played they played more. Well, we made other decisions. They made decisions around their life in basketball.
Right.
And then when they went to different levels, it's the level of commitment. I always tell that Kobe story because I took the Kobe story and realized it wasn't going to be with basketball and applied it to my life.
I like that.
And
Care to expound? I would love to hear you go more into it.
so so what I mean is I took the Kobe mentality. So I would get up to get better. When I left, I wasn't, to be truth be told, I wasn't that good at my like at being a video producer when I was in grad school, or I was okay because I was okay in undergrad and I was decent in grad school. Wasn't the greatest,
Hmm.
and it's because I was trying to give everybody else what I thought they wanted, so I can get out. But that wasn't the real experience. The experience was finding my own voice and how to do it. So when I left grad school and I had to find a job that would allow me to actually use what my degree was, I realized like I need to be better than everyone else. I
Mm.
need to know. Stephen A said this thing years ago that I'll never forget. He said, if you
Hmm.
don't know everything, you don't know anything.
Mm.
And when he said that to make sure you know everything about your craft and make sure you understand the ins and outs of it so that no you can have a conversation with anyone about it and no one can ever question your ability to do it. And I took that same mentality and I took the Kobe regimen and mentality and I did it. I said, okay,
Mm.
I'm gonna wake up early and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna study. I'm gonna start studying videography on every level. I'm gonna go back to the basics and I'm gonna go to advanced. So I started to figure out, okay, how many different angles can I do in one setting? Okay, I got close, wide, medium, cowboy, um, extreme close up, wide shot, extreme wide shot. And I said, okay, I studied those things. When do those shots make sense in a documentary? Okay, establish a shot when you want to show an area, extreme wide shot, usually a drone shot nowadays. Okay, cool. Intensity. I want to show somebody something's about to happen. Extreme close up. Show people's eyes.
Mm.
And like, and
Right.
I started studying. I started a couple hours. I'll study in the morning. Cool. I go do whatever I need to do in the house. Go right back at it. Pick up my camera. Go outside. Shoot something. Okay, cool. I'm gonna practice a wide shot on this, when you're in Brooklyn, New York, you see a whole bunch of, rats and stuff. So I'm like,
Right.
I'm being real. Let's be real. You
Right.
from the
Right.
hood,
Right.
so it's like, all right, I'm gonna do a wide shot on whatever this rat as close as I can get before he runs, and I'm gonna do a
Right.
wide shot there. Then I'm gonna get close up and go to the gutter and do a close up and see if I see it. And then what? Then it came down to once I started to figure it out, and I did this. then this time, and then this time, and then this time, 3, 4, 5 times a day sometimes when I started getting into it. And I got to the point where I started watching TV differently. I
Mm.
started, and my mother, my sisters would be like, like, shut up. Like, we can't even watch TV the way we were supposed to, because I'm like, up, close up coming. Boom, and the close up comes. And I'm like, up,
Mm.
he better pull out, because I don't, what other thing makes sense? And then when you start to figure out what makes sense for other people, and it's like, why would he do that? Why would this director do that? Why would this produce? You start asking questions. Now your training
Right.
goes from okay, I'm going to study shots at this time, and then I'm going to come back a couple hours later, and I'm going to study camera movements. Then I'm going to study how to put the story together, and then I'm going to study editing. And you do that. Even if it's not video, even if it's not, that kind of thing, whatever you're good at, and you get into it on that level of commitment, and you say, I'm going to do it if it's 1 hour 4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
You do 1 hour 4 times a day for 30 days, and watch the level of whatever it is go beyond whatever you imagined. I took the same Kobe mentality, and I started working out. I started working out and say, look, I have this goal that I want to achieve. I'm gonna work out in the morning, then I'm gonna take a break and eat, and then I'm gonna go do another kind of workout in the afternoon, take a break and do another kind of workout, and then go back at it again. When you apply consistency and discipline, it changes the whole thing in life, period.
Absolutely.
So when I had the Kobe mentality and I did that, I started having conversations on the level and started putting things together that people were just like, oh, actually, that makes sense. And I found my voice, and I found what I was good at.
Right.
The hardest thing for people to do nowadays with so many opportunities is to make a decision.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems with the sports culture in communities, like, in Black communities and communities of color, is that they see children either see sports as something that they can do or something that they
Mm-hmm.
can't. And if it's
Right.
dominant, if they see something over and over and over and over, and it's something that they can do, they try to go in it and they go hard at it, and you choose whether you love it. When you love something, and there's a discipline that is created. But if they
Agreed.
don't love it, they do it for some time and then they give up on it, and then they try to figure out something else. But the possibilities aren't within their reach. People with the education to tell them the difference aren't within their reach. So now, well, where I grew up, when the possibilities aren't there, so what is around? Drugs, guns,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
gangs, murder, death,
Right. Right. It's true.
prostitution at a young age,
Mm-hmm.
lack of self-worth, mental health goes all the way down.
Right.
So when you see all that kind of things, and it's like man, like, if they only knew that there was more out there. If they
Right.
like, that's why I ask the kids the question. I ask people the question. Well, what are you good at? What are you good at? Well, I'm good at talking. Okay, how's your voice? You could be a voiceover artist. Possibility that nobody even thought of.
Right. It's
Okay,
true.
you could be a podcaster. You like to talk. How long can you talk? What can you talk about? And how long can you talk about it?
Right.
But it's not. It's the discipline and commitment to figuring out what it is
What it is. It's true.
you can do, and what what you want to do.
Most certainly, most certainly. It's so interesting that you bring up those points, because they actually follow and lead up to my next question, which is, are sports industries neglecting academics in favor of their businesses and sports economies? Furthermore, does the holistic development and needs of children get lost somewhere within that paradigm? So again, the question is, are sports industries neglecting academics in favor of their own businesses and sports economies? Furthermore,
Absolutely.
does the holistic development, right, and needs of the children get lost somewhere within that paradigm? What do you think?
Yes, I think they are neglecting it because education doesn't bring them money. And the bottom
Mm,
line, at the bottom line is, while they're let me not say, let me revert. Let me
Okay.
back up. Maybe
Hmm.
not neglecting,
Right.
but just they're not focused on it. And there's a difference. There is,
Okay.
you will, Nike does believe in education.
Hmm.
Companies
Hmm.
like ESPN, they do believe in education,
Right.
but it cannot directly affect their bottom line the way that uh, a fantastic athlete can affect their bottom line or what they
Mm-hmm.
do best, which is
Mm-hmm.
Nike produce clothing for athletes to wear when they do superhuman things.
Right.
So it's like it's not a focus for them, but it's part of their, how we say, curriculum.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah.
And I think there's a difference, and we need to understand and point that out because if we say neglect, that means that they know it's there, but we're ignoring it. Truth be
Right.
told, they're not ignoring it. Just because it isn't a focus doesn't mean we're ignoring it. And I think in the wrong hands, people will misinterpret that understanding. So that's why I backtracked and said, you know what? It's not neglect, in my opinion. It's more so. It's more so just not focused. Their focus is on their brand, which I will respect that because you create a business based on something that you have abundance of. If I
Hmm.
sell T-shirts, and somebody comes to me and tells me like, well, well, your T-shirts aren't doing anything to help or help your modeling is not doing anything to help the community. I will argue and say, well, my T-shirts clothe the community. I am good at making T-shirts. This
Hmm.
is what we do. This is what we do. But now I will ask, and I think, and you have to remind me of the second part of the question. But before we go
Hmm.
there, I would
Hmm.
love to. I would love to get your opinion on what it is that these brands should be doing. Because before you answer, my opinion is this:
Hmm.
their business model from start to finish, from beginning, the time of inception of their business to this point in present day, has
Right.
always is evolved around the central idea of their brand,
Right.
whatever that central idea was. Create
Hmm.
product, create media footage, whatever it is.
Hmm.
It always been around that idea. That's who they are. Can't knock them for it. But in what way based on the question, would you say they have an opportunity to shift it?
That's a great question you bring up. A very, very great question. You know, well, as you know, I'm sure I know you're very privy to this information. As of recent, the whole thing about, athletes now starting to get paid in college because of, the whole crazy discrepancy there's been for decades in terms of college athletes not getting paid and having their likenesses used for like the brands of like the NCAA, like through like likenesses in video games and things of that nature or merchandise, whatever, whatnot. Right. So it's interesting you say that because I didn't really think about it before, but hearing what you were saying, I think what we can do, and this is me coming from the background of an educator and a teacher, right? I think what we can possibly do in regards to what you're saying is, okay, athletes, cool. So, we have come to terms that maybe our prior business model is a bit outdated. Right? We're in the 21st century. We're in 2021. Possibly our business model is a bit outdated. And, you're right. You have worked really hard over the past 50, 60, 80, whatever years it's been within the paradigm or the infrastructure of this system in terms of generating millions and billions of dollars for us, right? In order for us to feed our families and as well as, keep this whole infrastructure thriving and sustaining itself. So how about this? Since this is what you want, and since, in the past or prior, we've done it differently where you weren't really getting anything from us, why don't we do this? Why don't we have this melange or this blend of you getting sponsorship deals depending on your grades and how you're performing in the classroom. And all we're asking for you is to sustain a reasonable 2.0 or a 2.5. Right. And then if you do that, in addition to however your productivity or your level on the court may be, we can possibly distinguish how much you get paid through these sponsorships, through these deals, or through your playing time, or whatever, whatnot. Right. So maybe how I'm explaining it or how I am articulating it is a bit a bit. It could possibly be a bit too convoluted and too idealistic, because I understand there's salary caps, there's money, and money has to be spread throughout everything. Because let's not forget, these are still collegiate institutions, so they still got to pay the bursar and all these other things, and get a construction done, and a myriad of these other things, right? Because those are very, very important. And we know that construction and renovations are also billion-dollar generators as well. But also, again, so athletes, players, if you work towards this goal of making sure that you put your education first, or if not first, just as high on the level as your productivity on the court and your dedication to the court, this is what we can possibly give you. I think that's fair, if anything. So that's my thought.
I know, I like that. And I love that because it gives the opportunity to open up the door for athletes to be committed to their education. I would say, I love that. And I would say this, my opinion is this. One, they should be getting paid for if you are using my image and you're using my skill, people coming to watch me do what I do, if I'm good at something, and you're making billions of dollars, the only argument, and your only argument, is that you're going to school for free. That's incorrect for all athletes. Everybody's not getting a free ride straight through. And I think it should be compensation, because when you work, because my thing is compensation is based on how much you play, how much you contribute, and then retention of that compensation should be based on your commitment to your education, because it is a collegiate institution. So
without a doubt,
I think I actually putting both of our ideas together in a sense where, like, hey, you want to make money. What's your playing time like? What's your points and average? What awards are you bringing in that makes the business, the school, look good? All right, cool. You can maintain these things based on your grades. Also, okay, I am going to offer you. I think schools should do this. Not just like here based on the classes. I want to study this. Like, opportunities to talk to business owners. Like the NBA, like I was going to bring up the NBA, because the NBA does a fantastic thing where players can have conversations with execs and go through classes and training on owning businesses, becoming an exec why you see so many NBA players are now GMs. They're now wherever execs in the different places, and you may not hear their names anymore, but when you go into the organizations, they have a place, and there's life after the court. I think they should start that earlier and partner that with being able to allow them to make money off of their name and their ability. I see my boy Q. What up, Q? Q is in my brother's always in his support, and he said,
what up, Q? What do you say?
He said that's the least they can do for these athletes, for the amount of money that they make. I agree.
True. What me
and Kev was saying. It's because at the core, the crux of it, these athletes are out here. Without these athletes shooting the ball, throwing the ball, or catching it, or whatever, you don't make money. You don't sign rights deals. The ACC, all these different things. They don't sign rights deals worth millions of dollars. All these conferences, if the athletes aren't as good, don't commit to playing. If every athlete, Division I, let's just take basketball for a second. If every athlete said, I am not playing unless you pay me, and they go on strike right before basketball season starts, and every single athlete across every school and all conferences do that, it would cripple the television industry.
Right.
It would destroy it. It would cripple the collegiate standards. So, and where would that lead us? And Q said it. That's a straight up power move. Because
that's a power move.
But again, how can people utilize their power if they don't know they have it? Right.
Absolutely.
They're being fed that this is an opportunity for you. These NBA players came from here.
Right.
And this is an opportunity that we want to give you a free ride. You don't have to worry about anything. And you get the chance to go to the NBA. When in fact, if every player decided to go play overseas, and nobody was going to college anymore, you know what that would do? You know what that
Yeah.
would do? That would destroy,
Shatter. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
randomly shatter. They said, no,
Right.
we're gonna play for all these other countries instead, and then go to the league.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think even the progressive stance that the NCAA is now undertaking with these athletes and how they're dealing with them uh, economically at this juncture or this point of sports culture and just sports overall is because you see a lot of progressive deals or these progressive ideas that are happening, such as uh, um, Rich Paul a couple of years ago getting Darius Baisley the Nike internship and having him intern at Nike. I think after his sophomore year and then prior to the draft. So that way, I think it was for like a 1-year deal working as an intern at Nike for $1 million. And it's like, I know that sent a lot of the sports agents and as well as the NCAA to an outrage. Like, who does this guy think he is, in that matter? But at the same time, I'm like, man, that's progressive. Like, this young guy has the ability to learn about the tricks and the trades at Nike, which is kind of what we've been talking about a little bit. And then at the same time, in terms of learning the tricks of the trade, learning how to be a professional outside of basketball. Maybe that's something he never got a chance to do in college. And then also, too, just, preparing for the draft on his own time, I just think that's really, really, really interesting. So
it's progressive. Let's call it what it is. It's progressive. And the thing is, it's tough to deal with stuff like that because progressive is not always welcomed because it messes with the status quo.
It does.
What Rich Paul did was open up his understanding exponentially.
Right.
They're saying after basketball, there's this.
Right.
And there's also let's talk for a second about how athletes communicate with professionals and members of the media.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because when I think about how, like, when you look at these different athletes and how they conduct themselves, some athletes are phenomenal. And they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or she knows exactly how to have a conversation with another professional. And then others are just like talking like they're talking to somebody in the hood.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, and I say there's nothing wrong with, the way people talk, but it's not so much the speech as much as it is the affect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and how they carry the conversation and how they act, and it's almost like, well, I play this sport, I'm good at it, I don't need to worry about that. When basic communication and a level of understanding and how you carry yourself is your basketball. When somebody points a camera at you and more than one person can see it, you should always be looking to have your brand, which is yourself, whatever your name is, whoever you are, at the highest level. That's in speech, that's in communication, that's in how you look, how you dress. There should be an explanation. What you exude is what people are going to remember. So it's like, I think, and there's and NBA does a great job in this in preparing their athletes. Like, hey, what etiquette looks like. Here's your PR, how to work with your PR team, how to be a company person. And I'm not telling you to go out there and be, a drone or anything like that. Just corporate and just not speaking your mind. But there's ways to articulate and do things that, that just can be way at a higher level.
Right.
Again, it comes with training. It comes with understanding. I didn't learn the corporate world until I got here. Why? Because I just wasn't exposed to it.
And those with privilege and resources, start their cubs from young and prepare them early, 15, 16, they've got a summer internship, or if it's not even an official internship, because that might be too young, that's 15, 16, but they're still working at, PwC with dad at 15, 16, just volunteering until he can actually do an internship at 21, or working at Morgan Stanley, as the junior executive financial analyst at 2021 while still attending Rutgers or Stanford University. So yeah, I agree. 100%.
So, and then where does that? Let's track it back now. Let's track it back to where you look what you said. Like those with privilege give their offspring the opportunities. Those that aren't come from privilege, what is their next? What is their opportunity now? Education, and I'm not talking about in a school.
Right.
But nobody. But here's the thing: is we don't do it enough. We don't go back in the community and say, "Hey, bro, let me talk to you real quick. What do you want to be with yourself? The old question: what do you want to be when you grow up?" And it's like we don't do it enough. We're so busy still trying to figure it out. There's how many adults stop to say, like, you know what? I know I still got stuff to work on, but let me talk to the young boy right here, young homegirl over here. Say, hey, hon, you can do this. Don't look at this is just not the possibility. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be a ball player. There are things that are way more guaranteed.
Right.
I was always the opponent of if my opponent didn't want to do something, oh, that's exactly what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna tear you apart.
Right.
Right. You get real slow on defense. I'm torching you for 30. You gonna work? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you like defense, but you don't like offense. I'm hacking you all day.
Right.
Take the opportunities that like put yourself in positions to be like, okay, how? But again, there is an ideology that is formed where we can't get to in the homes and in the neighborhoods. And because from the oldest to now the ones coming up have been trained generations of generations. The difference between the privileged and the people that aren't privileged is the generations of life education, not education.
That's good. That's real good. That's real good.
When you look at if Warren Buffett had children, and he educated his children on how to do things, and they live normal lives. But they got education from one of the richest men in the world. They know him as Dad.
Yeah.
We know him as Mr. Buffett. We know that. And guess what? They're set with education.
Wow.
When you look at let's go a little bit further now.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, when you look at the way different financial institutions are set up, like, oh, what does your dad do? My dad does, financial reporting for this. The conversations of like, okay, here's how you do it. Hey, do you know what a Roth IRA is? Okay, what do we do with a Roth IRA? Okay, when can we pull the money out? After 59. Okay, cool. Well, how much interest does it get? Okay, it could get up to 8%. Okay, when you start the different type of conversations that I didn't hear until I got out of college.
Yeah, it's true.
My mama was the first one to teach me about stocks and how to set up a portfolio.
Wow. Shout out to Apostle McLeod. That's dope. That's really dope.
Like my mom and pops were the ones that was like, hey, look, nope, set it up this way. Put these contributions. I'm like, contribution? What am I contributing to? And they're like, no. Here's what it is. Damn. And then I took that, and then I ran with it.
Right.
To the point where mom's is like, I'm like, Mom, check out this stock that's coming up. There's a company that does X. That doesn't happen unless they go, John, do this, this, and this. This is what's important. This is how you make your money work for you. We were taught in different. Here's the kicker. Here's the transition now into your final question. Here's the transition. People of color, in privileged communities, were taught how to make money work for them.
Right. Yeah.
The not so privileged communities were taught how to make money.
Right.
And there's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And the difference in that is the amount of time committed. People in the communities know, okay, if I want money, I need to go get a job.
Right.
In privileged communities, okay, I want money. I don't necessarily want to work. I'm going to come up with an idea that allows me to have somebody else do it for me and make money and give them percentage to get the most. And let me duplicate that 10 times.
Agreed. Wow. No, it's very true. Very, very true. That's a vast discrepancy in terms of what we learn and how they learn. And with them, it's learning. But with us, I mean, this is something, my brother Mark would say, it's like, oh, just get a job, work until 65, work until you retire, make sure you get a good pension, and I mean, it's okay because we do need workers in the economy that we're in, but we're more
Absolutely.
so taught to be the employee, but they're teaching their children about wealth, generating wealth, and being, on in boardrooms, head of companies, CEOs, executive branch positions. It's such a vast dichotomy in terms of like how that works in terms of the principles and as well as the ethics and just even the schemas of how we're raised and what we're told to do, right?
Yep.
That's very, very interesting. Oh man, this is excellent. So we're going to transition into our final question for the day, and we have about 14 minutes left here. But if I do feel as if we need to extend time a little bit, if that's okay with you, to kind of
All right.
close out and wrap up in a positive way, we'll be sure to do so. So let me ask you this third question, my brother. This third and final question. So sports. So here we go. So sports, as much as academics, are paramount within the process of a child's development. Therefore, how can school, right? How can school, athletic personnel, as well as parents, develops or create a plan of strategies to ensure their needs are ultimately met? So when we're talking about our student athletes, how can the school system, athletic personnel within the school systems, and I'm talking across the board from middle school, high school, even college, right? Athletic directors, coaches, trainers, all the way down, as well as the parents, develop or create a plan. So coming together to create and implement strategies to ensure their needs are ultimately met. And when I say ensure their needs, I'm talking about the children and the youth in college.
So let me make sure I understand it. So you want to bridge the gap between the parents and the sports directors to educate our athletes on what exactly?
So yeah, so very great question. I'm glad you asked for that clarification. So what I am insinuating here, or what I'm kind of trying to thread the needle on, is in order to ensure that the athletes reach or obtain a high level of success on the court, right, or on the fields, or in the boxing arena, wherever it is that they are at, how can we ensure that they're developing both physically, right, academically, and being disciplined by the school and as well as the athletic personnel with the parents alongside for the ride to hold the child accountable for their sports productivity and as well as their education productivity as well. To just
Communication.
basically, I'm asking,
Yep.
yeah, just basically, I'm asking, how can we maintain that they're getting the best of both worlds and getting that balance?
Communication. That's exactly where it comes down to. There has to be communication. There has to be a consistency, accountability, and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Communication, consistency, accountability, and discipline. The combination of those four can make somebody incredibly unstoppable. And when you put people in your corner from both sides at home, and when you're getting it at home and you're getting it when you go to school, the two places when you're going through grade 1 through 12 and into college, and that is consistent, you have somebody that is incredibly equipped, incredibly powerful, and well-rounded.
Right.
Here's if you want, let's get even more specific. The way
Mm-hmm.
the way they do it is weekly meetings on the progress, weekly to monthly meetings on the progress of that athlete, that student athlete.
Mm.
So that means the professors, the coaches, the athletic director, and the parents come together to talk about the month progress of that athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Without them in the room, you have one meeting there, and then you have one with the athlete, and the counselor has to be there as well. You know why? Because you get different levels of what that athlete is dealing with. Education, the professors are there.
Mm-hmm.
Athletics, the coach and the athletic director is there. What's
Mm-hmm.
happening at home? The parents are there. The
Mm.
counselor, what's happening up here? Is he or she
Right.
overwhelmed? How is their mental
Right.
health? Do we see a decline in
Absolutely.
behavior? It takes a village to raise a child, right? When a
Right.
community comes together around a child and they create a system to benefit that child, it transforms everything.
Mm-hmm.
So now you put the decision makers in a room on a consistent basis. Remember, consistency, communication, consistency, accountability, and discipline.
That's great.
And you put that together around this child, and this child will believe they can do absolutely anything in their power because they have a support system.
Right.
One of the problems in communities, in the POC communities, is that the support system is incredibly weak. When in privileged communities, the support system is incredibly strong.
Right.
Because dad or mom knows somebody and then can combine.
Right.
Why would God create a family structure if he didn't want variety around somebody? Why would it be created if we weren't supposed to come together and melt? When you start to see the way system, remember, let's go back to it again. If you want a child to succeed, one effective strategy is effective communication, consistency, accountability, and discipline.
Absolutely.
I'll go back again. I said, bring the teachers in, the teachers and the parents and the coaches come together with the counselors and the coach and the athletic director. And when that is all over, what happens? You have a well-rounded athlete. And if the athlete comes to the point and says, look, I no longer want to do this sport, you still stick with him or her.
Right.
And say, hey, okay, what is it you want to do? I don't know, it's not a choice.
Right.
You have a team now. We're going to work together to say, like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I want to do this. I'd like to be an artist. I'd like to be a musician. I'd like to be an investor and a business owner. Okay. Remember that group of people. Yeah. Who do each of you know that that we can bring to this child to help develop them?
Right.
That's how a community grows effectively. And that's how you kill a lack of education with schooling or no schooling. That's how you kill a lack of education in the community. Because how can a child not thrive in an environment where everybody around them is working their butt off to communicate, to connect together, to hold them accountable, make them consistent, and allow them to communicate on levels, and then the discipline. Because then what happens? That child, because of that, then goes off into life and is branded in their head. We do things in our subconscious. Let's go scientific for a little bit. Scientifically, science says that our subconscious allows us to do things when we don't even know we're doing. One of the things we do naturally is breathe. There's systems, that God created systems within our body that allows our bodies to function regardless. There are things happening in the background that we don't necessarily control, but they're happening to us. There's things that we do and say, our mannerisms, the way we act and move is based on a repetition of things that happen in our subconscious. If you believe that you are good at something, chances are you believed it because you saw yourself being good at it and had success several times before you believed you were good at it.
Right. It's true.
So if we take the same scientific ideology and apply it to a system that can benefit our children, then we take it and we transform not just a child, we transform a whole community, because that same child now will grow up to be an adult and he subs out of the middle position and transitions over into a position to do it for another child. That same child now becomes a teacher. He'll become an athletic director. He'll become a parent at some point. And then the cycle continues.
Right.
But we need to create the community that will allow us to do that.
Without a doubt.
That is one of the problems. So that's how I believe we do that.
I love it, my brother. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, then again, as I said before, I wanted to be very respectful of your time. And I see we're 5 minutes from approaching the hour mark. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to do a quick word to the wise on this topic. And I want you to repeat those 4 words that you said before, those 4 terms. For me, my word to the wise today in regards to, the leagues in general, looking at it as a lottery and seeing your way possibly getting out. In addition to that, maybe bust and maybe not even making it, is to planning. That's my word. Planning. Have additional plans. Have additional ideas in place, just because you never know, right? You never know. And when you plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And by the time you reach 18, 19, I've seen people go from 18, 19 and even hell and my age at 30. And I used to go to school with dudes, and dudes come ball. Like they were crazy with it. Hops was crazy, first step crazy, just pure raw dog athletes. They could shoot, pass, all different types of caliber stuff. Had the height too, 6'3", 6'5", 6'6". And now at 30 years old, they don't even know who they are. They're still mentally 16, 17 cognitively, because they never got past that rank or that mark of who they were going to be in terms of life after basketball, if that ever came. And now it's here and they don't know who they are, right? And I'm glad I got my reality check early. When I didn't make varsity by sophomore year, I was like, oh, it's over. I'm 15, time to move on. So planning, that's my word. And could you repeat those 4 words again, my brother? Those 4, accountability, and what else were they?
Absolutely. It's communication, consistency, accountability, and discipline.
I love it.
Those 4 words, it can transform a person's life.
Absolutely.
Communicating effectively would allow you to get what you mean to people, what you need done, or what you need help with, what you mean to say out effectively. Consistency.
Right.
Do it on a consistent basis, regularly.
Right.
Doing
Right.
regimens of the things that you want to do. Accountability. Holding
Right.
yourself accountable and having the people that you love hold you accountable. And finally,
Right.
discipline. Being disciplined enough to be consistent on it and be focused and continue to grow in whatever it is, life-changing.
I love it. My brother, we have 3 minutes left. If you could quickly give your social medias and where people can find you online. And I know you also have a podcast too. So if you could just drop all that or whatever you'd like to share right now, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yo, my bro, is Mr. Outwork You on Instagram. John McLeod on Twitter. John McLeod ESPN on Twitter. The podcast is the ESPN Prod Pod. Check me out on Spotify, Apple, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts, it is there. TikTok, Mr. Outwork You. Facebook, John McLeod. I'm happy to connect with everyone.
Absolutely. He's killing it on there, y'all. And I'm going to add the link when this episode goes into audio format in a couple of months. I'll add the link to his podcast within the description of the episode. So with that being said, The Wise Guys, everyone, The Wise Guys podcast in this final season can be found on every streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube even. This video will be on YouTube. It will also be found on IGTV. In addition to that, you can find us again on iHeart, any streaming service in which you get your podcast. All right. And please be sure to like, comment, share, and send this out to a friend when this episode does air in audio format in a couple of months or so, because the fall is coming. So whenever this episode drops, I'm sure this one will be a doozy for sure. So as I said at the beginning of the show, this is the man, Kevin McLeod, and we have been joined on this platform by a good friend of ours, a Wise Guy alumni at this point, and our very special guest,
John McLeod.
And you've been tuning into the Wise Guys podcast, all right? We'll see you all next week. And if my brother Mark was here, you know what he would already say. Stay wise. My brother, just in time, with a minute to spare. Man, I love you. I appreciate you. You're the best. Thank you for coming on and hopping back on the platform for the final time, man.
No, always got your back, bro. Always got your back, homie. Anytime you call, if I could do it, I could do it.
I appreciate it. Shout out to Q. Shout out to your boy Q, man. We appreciate you for chiming in and just being around.
Big facts, big facts. I saw a couple of people. Shout out to, my wife is in the chat. I see you, darling.
Yeah.
Uncle,
hey, what's
Uncle
up? What's
Mel,
up?
I see you. What's up, Chichi? I see you too. My boy
Definitely.
Spencer, my boy BC.
I appreciate y'all. Well, with that being said, my brother, I appreciate you. You see that Brooklyn College, little logo on the background. Yay.
BC all day.
Yes, sir. Always, always. My brother, I'm going to text you in a second. I appreciate you, but have a good night. All right. God bless. Love, man.
Thank you. Later, man.
All right, bro. Take care.